All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Paid Search Podcast. My name is Jason Rothman. As always, I'm joined by my partner and co-host, the buff, the great, the talented, the reckless, Chris, the great Schaefer. Chris, how's it going today?
I did a lot of push-ups today. I mean,
did you really? Did you pump it up before the show?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I do that. I pump it up every day. CrossFit. Did a lot of push-ups.
All right, Chris. Well, we are continuing our talk about display today, but before we do that, I would like to hear about Optio, and then I will let the audience know about Directive Consulting.
Yes. Optio.com/PSP. We talk about it every week because it's a great tool. You haven't checked it out yet? I've got a great deal for you. 6-week extended trial. And get this, the price is free for the whole 6 weeks. That's cheap. Zero is cheap nowadays. You can't get anything for zero, and that's what they're offering. 6 weeks of trying it for free. This is an online tool where you can get email alerts, you can get on-screen alerts, you can get keyword alerts, you can get all types of help on your campaign. Big $10,000 spend, $20,000 spend, they've got suggestions. $200 spend a month, they've got suggestions. They are equal opportunity suggestions. You can get some great tips, opteo.com/PSP, and you too can enjoy your additional free 2 weeks on top of the 4 that they give listeners of the show. Jason, tell us about Directive.
All right, Chris. Well, thank you. Everyone, listen up. We want to talk about Directive Consulting. Directive Consulting is a search engine marketing agency that specializes for B2B campaigns and enterprise campaigns. So if you're a large B2B advertiser, if you're an enterprise advertiser, you've worked with a lot of agencies, you need one that gets it. Directive Consulting gets it. They will help you get quality leads, and then they will help you scale and get more leads. They do it all: pay-per-click, SEO, conversion rate optimization, content, social media, digital PR, analytics. They do it all. They figure out what works best, and then they scale that and get you better results than you've seen before. Check out their website, Directive Consulting. Look at some of the brands they've worked with. It's very impressive. Look at some of their case studies. They've got great case studies. And what I like about Directive is that they tie it all together. They know how to do it all: pay-per-click, SEO, social, landing pages. They figure out what works, and then they help you scale your campaigns. Get a free custom proposal at directiveconsulting.com and see what they can do for you. directiveconsulting.com. So yeah, a lot of people to help with this show, Chris. And last week we were talking about topics on the display network, and we dug into topics, and we were thinking about it, and we're like, you know what? There is just there's a handful of options on display. They're all kind of different. We're going to go through a full series now on all your options, and then we're going to finish it up with how to judge those results and optimize those campaigns once you get data in. Last week we talked about topics that targets the website. Chris, we're going to talk about placements. We're going to talk about keywords in coming episodes, but today we're talking about targeting the person. And targeting the person is broken up into InMarket and Affinity. We'll break those down with examples. But first, let's talk about your fetish, targeting the website, targeting the person. And once again, talk about that crack. Talk about that divide between targeting the website and targeting the person. How is InMarket? Do you have a cold? Why are you sniffling?
No.
Button up here.
Not.
We're doing a podcast. Button up. We're doing a podcast.
Hear a dog barking. Talk about professional. All right, so I'm going to talk to you about targeting.
All right, we're going to button this up. Okay, Chris. So how is InMarket? How is Affinity?
I'm already talking about it. We don't even just take your headphones off. Go fix your dog. Okay.
Go. What did you just say to me?
Fix your dog. Okay. I said fix your dog. All right. So we're targeting the website, which is topics. So that means the content on the website is how you decide or Google decides whether the ad is going to show or not. If it's a blog about cooking and then there's a website about movers, and you are targeting people that are, content that's about moving and home, home movers and things like that, it's going to not target the cooking. It's going to target the site about moving. Okay. That's how topics worked. We talked about that last week in the episode. This week, we're going to talk about what Jason and I agree is the mysterious side of display, right?
It's all mysterious, dude, display.
No, well, that's true. That's true. Most of it's mysterious, but this is extra mysterious, double mysterious, because when it comes to audiences, is what we're talking about today, is you can see why a topic is chosen, but you can never really know for sure why an audience is targeted. And it's mysterious. We're going to talk about that. But before we do that, Jason, people leave reviews on iTunes, and I want to know what the latest review is from our faithful
It's a stupid one. It's from United States. It's from a guy named Cheese Machine. He gave us 5 stars. I like that, but then he just said something crass. Would give 6 stars if Jason didn't make weird noises. I've learned a lot. Thanks. Well, thank you. And I'm going to take your advice and I'm going to flush it down the toilet, because what do you think the magic to this show is?
It's the noises.
Thank you. At least Chris knows.
Yeah. So, okay. So that's it. That's what we're going to talk about. And before we do that, I want to say every month or so, we do an episode where we take your questions and answer them. If you want your voice featured on this show, give us a call. Our voicemail number is 214-810-1355. You can call that and leave a voicemail, and we may feature you on the show. There's your dog again.
Chris, is there any chance that you answer that phone when they call?
No, it goes straight.
There's no chance. Okay.
No chance.
That'd be pretty funny if random people called you up.
Yep. Every 4th call, I answer it.
You'll answer, is that true? You can actually answer it?
No, it's not true at all.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's just no one's going to know if they're the 4th caller.
No, yeah, that way more people will call.
I think in another life, like if you would have been born like 10 or 15 years earlier, you would have been like a shady, scammy radio DJ, just like sexually assaulting interns and like stealing from the company.
Here we go. Here comes
being single. Being single, you'd probably be 50 pounds heavier. But this is in another life. If you were just born 10 to 15 pounds early, 10 to 15 years earlier, because there's something about a local FM DJ troll that I think you have those kind of personality traits that you don't exercise because they're not fit for the 2019 world. But like if the peak of your career would have been in like 1995, give us a phrase that pays, call the station. We'll see you down at the car dealership on Saturday. Like I'm going to wear what you're wearing right now to work every day. Honestly, Chris, what would you have done if Google Ads didn't exist and FM DJs were a bigger thing like they used to be? What other job could you possibly do? Because if Google Ads didn't exist, with your personality and wearing what you're wearing, you would have been perfect. You would have been perfect for an FM DJ. Shorts all year. Wear shorts and t-shirts all year.
This is a Gucci t-shirt.
No, it's not.
Can't you tell? It's $300. This is a $300.
I seriously think that might be a $3 t-shirt. Honestly, you would have been an awesome FM DJ.
So today we're talking about InMarket and we're talking about Affinity. There's going to be 2 different conversations, and conversation number 1 is going to start with InMarket. Jason, don't look at the notes because I just realized that I wrote the wrong thing down.
Oh, trust me. After last episode, I'm not looking at the notes ever again when you make the notes. We'll talk about that on Patreon.
So InMarket, I was going to get you to say it, but I realized my notes are wrong. So InMarket, I'll let you do Affinity. So InMarket means that they are currently interested in making a purchase for something. They're interested in some type of product, service, consulting, something like that. Okay. So this covers, basically any business that sells something. Someone can be interested in making a purchase for their child. They're interested in baby supplies. They're interested in some professional service. And To give you a couple of examples of what this might look like, financial planning. Okay. Someone is interested. I'm reading straight from the definition. People interested in purchasing financial planning or investing products and services. This is an audience, an in-market audience. And Google determines these, and this is the black box. This is where it gets all confusing because there's no way to know why they chose this person, but this person has been labeled based on their searches, their browsing history, what they do on the internet, to determine that it appears this person's in market, interested in purchasing services for financial planning. And it gets really specific. There's tons of these. And the point of this whole series, at least the first 2 episodes, is easy ways to target on the display network. You don't have to make super detailed decisions. If you are a financial planner, you could use this display network to try and reach people that are in market for those things. So, Jason, I know we both feel the same way about this. How do you feel about this versus topics? We talked about topics last week. Do you agree that this is mysterious, that it's kind of like black boxy, confusing? You don't really know what you're going to get?
It's tough, Chris. It's just really tough because you target topics. You tell the system what kind of websites you want to show up, what kind of pages. We'll talk about it on the optimization episode, but you look at some of the placements and they're just, I don't know, sometimes they're what you want, sometimes they're not what you want. Here's the beautiful thing about InMarket is it's everything you would ever want, Chris. It's straight from Google. It says, these are customers who are in market, which means they're researching products and are actively considering buying a service or product like yours. That's as good as it gets. Like that's almost better than search, or it's up there with search. So one part of me, the yin, is always like, you know what? In market, if Chris does financial planning, that's the client. Well, I just typed in financial planning into the search under when you click add in-market audiences, or add audiences, I should say, and I see a bunch of in-market audiences, financial services, investment services, retirement planning, financial planning. Those are straight on. So I would want to target those all day and think everything is going to be great. The yang part of me, yin and the yang, is like, well, now we're targeting the person. We're not targeting the website anymore. We're targeting the person. So I can just throw my placements out the door. Like when I look at my placements, I'm expecting to see how to cheat on your wife. I'm expecting to see, is 483 pounds considered quote unquote fat? I'm expecting to see, why can't I stick to a diet? Like I'm expecting to see pages about all that kind of stuff, about rap videos, about all this kind of stuff, hip hop videos on YouTube. There's just tons of placements that, as a person who looks at search terms every day, it's just hard to deal with, like looking at those horrible placements. However, it's about the user. So the yang part of me, the part that's hard to deal with is, well, I can't look at my placements, the display network's version of search terms, if you will, because they're not going to give me anything, because I know they're going to not look good because we're targeting the user. But then I'm hung up on, Chris, well, what if I don't see conversions? What if I don't see direct conversions? Then I'm kind of like, well, I'm targeting people Google says are in the market for financial planning. This is a financial planner client in our example. I'm looking at my placements. I'm not happy with that, but I understand it's about targeting the user wherever they are. But then I look at my conversions, and if I'm not getting conversions, then that's where I have a problem. So I would say I like InMarket, Chris. I like the idea of it, but I'm going to be pretty ruthless about judging it. And if I don't see conversions, if I don't see a great time on site, if I don't see a low bounce rate, then I don't know how I can justify continuing running on it, unless it's just one of those field things and the client goes, wow, business has really picked up. So that's kind of my overall thoughts on InMarket. It sounds great, but I will judge it harshly.
Yeah. And you're exactly right, because there other than success, there's no way to measure it unless you just suddenly start getting tons of conversions and stuff. There's really no way to measure it. Like you said, we'll talk about qualifying the traffic from display in a separate episode. But the thing is that bothers me is if you do let's say you pick a topic like we talked about, food and grocery delivery, like we did last week.
Okay.
And when we talk about, we set that as a target, you're going to get, let's just say 5,000 impressions in a week. Okay. Let's say that. From my experience, if you were to do a specific in-market audience, you might get 10,000 impressions for in-market, because the number of people that could fit in an in-market could be tens of thousands of people, and you just get tons and tons of impressions. Sometimes I start to feel like, really, in this metro area, and I targeted financial planning, there's that many impressions. But if I target people that are looking at pages about financial planning, I only got like 5,000 impressions, so and the difference is this: you're not limited to a website. It can show up on a mobile app. It can show up when they're browsing a YouTube channel. It's not about the content of the site. It's about what person has been doing. So you could potentially serve the same person and add 15
Well, let's
times.
give people an example. If you're targeting people who are in the market for home and garden, outdoor items, specifically barbecues and grills, people who are in the market for barbecues and grills, the way this works is the way we think this works. We don't know how this works.
Right.
We think this works is earlier in the day, someone was on a bunch of pages about barbecue grills. Maybe they did some Google searches, barbecue grills in Dallas, used barbecue grills in Dallas, where to buy barbecue grills in Dallas, whatever, Weber grills in Dallas. And then later that night at 10 at night, they're in their bathtub or not their bathtub. Let's say they're lying in bed, their spouse is in the bathtub, and they're lying in bed and they're searching, how do I know if she's cheating on me? And then they go to a blog about all the 10 signs your partner's cheating and they won't tell you, blah, blah, blah. And then they see a display ad on that page about cheating for barbecue Weber grills,
for barbecue,
whatever, barbecue grills. That's your ad. So when you go to your placements, you're going to see whatever, Cosmopolitan, Cosmo magazine, whatever,
right?
10 signs she's definitely cheating. And you're going to be like, huh, what? But it's that user who Google thinks was looking, or who Google knows was looking for barbecue grills earlier that day. They're in the market. So Chris, that's the tough thing, is how do you know if that's working? Well, I would say, if that's working, just like, if search is working, conversions, time on site, bounce rate. I mean, I would judge it pretty harshly, or else you're just going to keep going and advertising on it.
It's a bottomless pit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you'll keep doing it. So here's the good news. I mean, so that's the truth, guys. I mean, we're not going to blow smoke about,
but
this
Chris,
is some mysterious
here's the same thing. We've been on the other end of it when we're in the market for something. And then all of a sudden we start seeing a bunch of ads that match what we're in the market for. So it definitely does work. Like, it does work. Yeah.
It's just,
but then
really
again,
tough to qualify.
you and I have both run it and have not seen some conversions a lot of times,
Right. Yeah. So here's the good news. There's, just like we talked about with topics, there's lots of individual examples of what you could do.
You can get pretty granular with this.
Yeah. There's and I had, so we talked about B2B a lot. So if you're a B2B advertiser, there's things like signage, right? If you sell signs to other businesses, people interested in purchasing business or commercial signage, such as banners, electronic signs, vinyl lettering. I mean, that's really specific. And this kind of person, would represent a very small percentage of search traffic, but you could potentially show them, 15 ads over a month that have your logo and your products in there, especially if you're a local business. That's great.
People may go, well, how do I know what categories can fit my business? Where do you find these categories? It's pretty simple, Chris. You click on audiences, you click ad, and then there's a search bar. And like, if you are a sign company, I just typed in signage, and then it filters down to in-market, business and industrial, signage, business signage.
Yep.
So whatever you do, all you have to do is go into audiences, add it, and then add sign, and then search for what your business is.
So let's get into the other side of this discussion, which is
not.
I mean, it gets kind of crazy, because now we're getting into affinity, which is it's a very strange word that you probably don't use in your everyday language, but essentially what it is they are interested in blank. They're interested in banking, food, news, entertainment, travel, shopping. Now, this is different because InMarket is referring to a product, service, some professional service, something like that. This is referring to hobbies and interests
And habits.
and habits. This is much more obscure. Okay. And this is more of a long tail habitual type of thing that a person, is subscribed to a lot of YouTube channels about this particular thing. They tend to, go to beauty shop websites a lot over a long period of time. This may not be one sporadic search for pet supplies. This is a long time thing where they're always, looking at pet lovers. Exactly. Yep. Instead of pet supplies is pet lovers. And there's again, a ton. Jason, do you know how many Affinity there are? Mr. I know everything.
133.
That's it? Oh,
yep.
Wow. That makes sense because there's a whole lot less, like hobbies and interests and things like that compared to how many.
Yeah, you're either into politics and news, or you're into art, or you're into movies, or you're into restaurants and cooking, or you're into pets. Like, we're not too complicated. Yeah. Chris, straight from Google's help, Affinity Audiences were built for businesses currently running TV ads and want to expand their reach of that campaign with an online presence for an efficient price. So that is not typically the kind of clients we work with. We work with more like small businesses, people who need leads. And so that's where it's a little bit different. But Chris, it's the same thing. You go to audiences, you search for what your kind of business is. I typed in Mexican restaurants. So because say I'm like a Mexican restaurant in town and I've advertised a little on TV, but I want a more cost-efficient option. I can target a city. I can target people who are in my age, and then there's some affinity. So like people who frequently eat lunches out, Affinity Audiences, food and dining, Affinity Audiences, foodies. So that's how someone who would have like a Mexican restaurant would do. There might be more than 133 or whatever. Actually, I think there is. People who eat out. I just thought that was so granular that maybe there's more than I thought, but that's just one of the more granular ones.
That is such a, how do you qualify someone who eats out a lot?
How do you qualify that? You purchase people's credit card data from huge data companies, and you look at which ones have a high percentage of restaurants. Who knows how this happens, Chris? I don't know. I don't know how Facebook and Google get all their targeting besides the stuff you give them. But there are data companies out there, Chris, that I'm pretty sure people, that's the way they get stuff, basically like that or similar to that or whatever. I don't know. There's stuff, Chris, there's Google Maps app tracking your location. If you go to a restaurant all the time for lunch or for dinner, and the map and the thing sees your phone at a restaurant around 6 to 8 p.m. 3 nights a week, that's someone who eats dinner out a lot, and that's a category.
It's possible.
Yeah,
it's possible. Yeah, there's a lot of these, and I'll tell you, to kind of break through the curtain here, and like how much do we love, or I'll talk for myself. I'll speak for myself.
What's your affinity for affinity?
Exactly. Very well said. For me, it's not a favorite, because I think you nailed it on the head when you said the type of clients that I work with, I'm interested in getting movement quickly for sales, for phone calls, for purchases, and
leads.
Me targeting book lovers or family focused audience, people who are passionate about family and may enjoy, reading parenting advice. These are rarely something that are going to appeal to my low funnel mindset for getting leads and purchases.
If you have the Mercedes-Benz franchise dealership in town, it's kind of hard to like only run search ads and then get leads and have people buy a car that day. You got to build that brand. And so like one of the affinity audiences is vehicles and transportation. And then down under that is auto enthusiasts. And then down under that, you can do truck and SUV enthusiasts. But for the Mercedes dealership, it would be performance and luxury vehicle enthusiast. So I'm going to target Men, I'm going to target age 45 to 60, prime of their earning years. I'm going to target the affinity audience, performance and luxury vehicle enthusiasts. And I'm going to target desktop only because these guys are old and they don't know how to use their phones other for cheating on their wives when they're on the apps, because they sure figured those apps out. So that's, maybe I'll target those dating apps as well. But Chris, I think they're going to be on the websites browsing about golf or sports or news or whatever. So I'm just going to hammer that affinity audience, men 45 to 60, who performance and luxury vehicle enthusiasts, on their desktops. I'm just going to agree to spend $5,000 a month on there. If I run the Mercedes dealership in Sacramento, I'm just going to spend $5,000 a month on there, just like I spend it on TV. And I'm going to hope that I build a brand. And then when that guy over the next 5 years decides to buy a new luxury car, it's between myself and the BMW and the Lexus dealership. And hopefully I've built up some branding in his mind and have some mind share. That's what you got to do. But that's not typically the kind of clients that we work with.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's the truth of it, guys. I mean, we talked about topics, we talked about targeting the website, we talked about targeting the person, and then the two ways to target the person. So in reality, there's a bit more complexity when it comes to targeting the person, because there's what are they looking for in the moment and what do they have a habitual interest in over time. So there's two different versions of that. What we haven't talked about is, more complex things. We didn't talk about targeting the website using keyword contextual targeting, which is a whole nother thing. That's kind of like a custom topic. And then we also didn't talk about two additional versions of InMarket and Affinity Audiences. You can create your own InMarket, let's call it custom InMarket audience and custom affinity. You don't have to go with the pre-baked affinity and InMarket audiences. You can come up with your own. So it gets way more complex, but the idea here is simplicity.
What are your options?
Yeah, I mean, click it and let it run. Honestly, when it comes down to it, sample these with a bit of caution. If you were to compare topics to this, I would say I would probably bid a little bit lower on this than I would topics, because the lack of qualification. I mean, you're going to get, just like Jason said, some cosmopolitan.com, versus, another site that is actually about pet supplies. And you can literally see what they're looking at. And this looks relevant. So that's the idea. And we're going to talk more about qualifying this stuff, like what is it really, what does something good look like when you're getting it, and what looks bad. So we have a whole lot more to talk about, but hopefully this makes it this makes it a little less daunting, a little less scary to dive into display, because the idea is there's a lot out there. And this is basically just push button. You don't have to be creative. You don't have to come up with your own thing. Just click it and let it run and see what happens.
Yep. Well, Chris, great episode. Now we know our options with audiences. And I want to thank Directive Consulting for sponsoring today's episode. Directive Consulting specializes in B2B and enterprise search engine marketing campaigns. If you are a B2B advertiser or an enterprise advertiser and you need more leads and better quality leads, we recommend going to directiveconsulting.com and getting a free custom proposal.
Optio.com/PSP. That's the only place you can go to try out a software. You want to do it yourself. You want to try and be better at what you're doing in Google Ads. This is the tool that can help you do it. Google Ads has recommendations. There's built-in recommendations in Google Ads, but this goes beyond those pre-baked recommendations. This is something that's customized for your campaign based on tools and what the system's algorithm recommends. Get emails, get alerts, get help, and get tips directly in the system. opteo.com/PSP. And that's it, Jason. Excellent stuff. We're about to jump into our Patreon show. Patreon. I still can't decide how to say it, but we have absolutely no idea what we're about to yell at each other about, but it's always fun. And I'm sorry you can't be a part of it. It's a super elite club only if you pay the premium price of $2 a month.
I'm going to talk to you about
So,
that in Patreon.
so I know we're pretty much excluding everybody with this amazingly high price point, but we'll catch you guys next week. Patreon.com/paid search podcast. If you want to take a look, many people have. We'll catch you guys next week.